How is it now that I held the Chindo ceremony for you? Is it good? Even if we strip them all off beforehand. People who keep getting possessed by souls end up getting possessed even while walking down the road. When I looked, I saw that several were attached. There was even a beggar ghost in there. A beggar ghost means a homeless ghost that comes in after begging for food on the street. And once a beggar ghost gets in, it tries not to leave. It's a beggar ghost, and that kind of thing was in there. It became 5 people. 5. Today, the mother had many, and the number was large. It was about 20. So when I did the mother first, it was really hard, and it felt like my ribs were about to break. That's how hard I strained myself. So who would carry something like that attached to their body? It just came in by accident. So since I did well today, if you have time, you need to come to the temple a lot. Even perfectly fine people come often all the time. So you should come and go like that too. Today, I'm going to give a sermon on whether religion is necessary in the present age we live in. Do we need religion in order to live? You're curious about that too. But in living our lives, people who find it a bit hard to live try to lean on something, anything, anywhere. They try to rely on it. But religion cannot be relied on. Because religion itself is originally transience, so it cannot be something you rely on. Do you understand? I'm telling you, religion itself is originally transience. It has no basis, and because you search for it and follow it when nothing is visible, it has no basis. If we cling to something with no basis thinking something good might happen, then something good cannot happen. If you're thirsty, you have to give water, and if you're hungry, you have to give food, right? That is the truth we live by, and it's the right thing to say. If you're thirsty, what good is it to only think about the sound of water? Only think about water, when water isn't going into your mouth. Religion itself is something where even the very word water is absent. Religion is something that has nothing. So what need is there for religion in living our lives? So today, I'm going to talk about how, if I believe in religion, there will be good things while living. And after dying I'll go to a good place too. Since I'm going to give a sermon about things like that today, listen carefully. If people in the world live comfortably and well, they don't believe in things like that. They don't believe, and if you go to places like G or S, there aren't many churches. Why is that? Those people are comfortable even if they do nothing and live comfortably. So there's no need to go out of their way to a church or a temple to pray. Why pray? There's no need to pray. Does anything get accomplished just because you pray? So religion is something that is not needed at all while we live on this earth. That's what I'm saying. What kind of place is why? Our why is not a place for praying. Here, you go to why and listen to an awakened sermon. So that, after being born into the world, you awaken and live happily until the day you die, earn money too, succeed, and live well. After death, once you die, where is there for a ghost to go? There is nowhere for a ghost to go. There is no land of happiness, no heaven, and no kingdom of heaven. Because they don't exist. When a person lives and then dies, everyone becomes a ghost, so don't try to seek the ghost world. Hold on to the Buddhism we have awakened to. When a person has awakening, you know, it becomes something I don't have to do on purpose. Do you understand? The sun is always up, but clouds cover it so you can't see it, and it's the same as the day looking gloomy. Do you understand? It's not that the sun rises on good days and doesn't rise on bad days. The sun is always shining brightly, but you can't see it because clouds gather, or because it rains, and that's why you don't see the sun. The sun is always there. For us humans too, the soul is always there. But when you die you can't find the path you should go on. So when everyone dies, they disappear as ghosts. The place where a ghost opens its eyes with Buddha's enlightened light and goes along the path as a ghost is the Yonghwa world. Do you understand? A ghost has to open its eyes and have awakening in order to be able to reincarnation after that. If a ghost has no Buddha's enlightened light and cannot have awakening, it's just like an unplanted bean. You said a bean only sprouts if you plant it. A human soul also has to be planted like that. Where do you plant it? You plant it in the Yonghwa world. To plant it, I have to take Buddha's enlightened light with me, and then it's planted and sprouts. If I don't have Buddha's enlightened light, it's useless. No matter how much you go and pray and beg, it's no use, that's what I'm saying. Do you understand? So even if I talk about it every day, Buddha's enlightened light is something you can neither add to nor subtract from. So the principle of the world is everyone, look at a sunflower. If a sunflower is like this, when the sun rises in the east in the morning, it turns its head, so it can look at the sunlight toward the east. Do you understand? During the day, as the sun rises in the east and then leans toward the west, it slightly turns its head again like this to receive the sun's light. Even plants like that try to receive the sun's light, that's what I mean. Why do you think it tries to receive it? Why receive it? The sunflower seeds have to ripen, right? The seeds have to ripen so that if you save those seeds and plant them next year, they'll sprout, right? To ripen the seeds, to receive the sun's light, it keeps turning its neck like this, like this. It's not that someone turns it, it turns by itself automatically. Looking at the sun's light like this. Do you understand? That is all the principle of the world. People also have to receive Buddha's enlightened light, don't they? If you want to receive Buddha's enlightened light, what should you do? You have to take commandments of Buddhism. Only by taking commandments of Buddhism does Buddha's enlightened light enter my body, and just as sunflower seeds ripen, a person too like a sunflower must have Buddha's enlightened light in the body, so that when you die and go to the Yonghwa world, you do not disappear. It means you can come back again. Is that right, or wrong? It's right. Words with no basis, no matter how much you hear them, are transients, useless talk. A person must have a basis. What is this basis? The basis is Gong Thought. Do you understand? Gong Thought has a basis, meaning it does not disappear. So existing religions are all things that exist and then vanish and disappear. That's what existing religions are. Don't you understand? If you go to learn Shakyamuni Buddha's Buddhism, then when you die you go to the land of happiness. The land of happiness is a place you go after you die. It's where you go after dying. Do you understand? I'm telling you, the place you go after death is the land of happiness, and heaven is the same. Does a living person go? A dead person goes. They say the place you go after dying is heaven. But does heaven exist? Heaven does not exist. There is no land of happiness either. And it's a transience place, that's what I'm saying. So when I speak of Gong Thought, anything in this world that cannot be seen with the eyes and confirmed is all transience. A house also must be built so a person can move in and live there until the day they die. If you don't build a house, where does a person go to sleep and live? Just saying in words, if you go to G, there's a good house. If someone says, when you die, you will go to a good house in G, do you go there? Where is a house built in G that is yours, when you don't have one? Isn't that right? Everything said only in words is transience and all lies. Lies because these lies come out so much in the world. The world is in chaos. That's what I'm saying. Because there are too many lies, and you must not speak words you do not know. If someone who doesn't even know well just blurts out words, what is that? They're tricksters, aren't they swindlers? What's the point of pouring out only words non-stop? In living our lives, you have to show and confirm everything by seeing it with the eyes. Doing it only with words is useless. That's what I'm saying. What good thing is there from believing in religion? I also saw churches like this while I was there for 3 years before. And when you look, only people who have a hard life come to the church. People who live rich and live well like that, I didn't see them at church. They aren't there. People who find life hard come thinking maybe, if they believe in God, something good might happen. I saw that. I even handled the finances there, and I saw everything finances for 3 years. The church members, and the money coming into the church, things like tithes. I handled the finances. If you look, it all shows. So because a person lacks something and life is hard, they go to places like that and cling to them. They cling. Why would someone living well and comfortably go to a place like that? It's the same with temples. It's the same with temples. If they have no children and live alone and the day of death draws near, thinking, maybe they'll at least go to the land of happiness when they die. There are many people who go to temples like that too. Here in A, There is a Buddhist I know who goes to a nearby temple. Now that she is 70, with the day of death close, she's a woman living alone. They say she sells the house she lived in and gives it all to the temple. No, you need to have a house until the day you die so you can sleep. And if you get sick you can buy medicine, and so on. When you don't even know when you'll die and still have days to live, is it right to give it to the temple in advance? I stopped her from selling the house. I'm telling you, if she gives the house to the temple, then when that Buddhist gets sick and goes to the temple, saying, "My body is sick, so please give me some money," do you think they'll give money? They won't. Don't talk nonsense. They won't give it. So you must not do things like that. Why offer it up to the temple? If you give it to the temple, do you plan to die and then receive a new body and come back? Where do you go after you die? It ends, I'm telling you. But they say she gives it in advance before she even dies, selling the house. Seriously, I stopped her. I'm telling you, why do such foolish things until the day you die? If your body is sick you need to take medicine too. Isn't that so? And you have to eat and live. But if you sell your house and give it away, what are you going to do? To go to the temple and live by receiving food. If you have to go to the temple every time, the women who cook the meals don't like it. So a person should live with wisdom. In the past, that F, you know F, right? People who went in there also sold their houses and took the money in. They sold their houses, thinking if they come here it's good and comfortable. And if they just believe in God and pray, then when they die, they go to heaven and the kingdom of heaven. So they liked that and sold their houses and went into F. They give them a single room and tell them to live there. And after selling the good house and getting rid of it all, they go into F and get one room. And there they sleep with their kids all crowded together like puppies. After sleeping, if they give a spoonful of food there, they eat that and then have to go work at the factory. If you go to F, there's F soy sauce, F blankets, all kinds of things come out. You have to work there, at the factory. Why do that? Just because you work there, do you get born again after you die? So there was even someone I know who went in there. There are many, there is B2, and over there D2, and there are quite a few here and there. But after being there, they finally had awakening. Ah, I came in wrong. Oh no, this is a big problem. Even if you ask for money to get out, they won't give it. They say, you offered all the money to God, so what are you asking for? Wipe their mouths clean, and don't give it. Listen, the world is that kind of rotten world. Do you know? Look, these days religion colludes with politicians and it's a mess, right? Why do they do that? Politicians should just do politics and manage the country's livelihood. Why would they go to a religious organization, hold out their hands, and get money to use, doing things like that? Isn't that right? They're strange people. This country has gone wrong. Why did they go there and hold out their hands and take money? Then they became members of the National Assembly to make money. They didn't become members to run the country and do politics for the sake of the country. They became members of the National Assembly to make money. People like that should have their necks cut off. All of them. And I have one request to President L. I ask this every Sunday: if there's some kind of incident involving members of the National Assembly, the Assembly should vote and they must go in to be investigated. If a member of the National Assembly does wrong, first you must cut off their assembly position on the spot, right there. What are members of the National Assembly, anyway? They're people who are nothing. They're nothing. Are they smart? They aren't even smart. And when you hear them talk, they can't even speak properly. They're ignorant. They're people who are nothing. Smart and capable people aren't like that members of the National Assembly. So they look disgusting to me. The ideology inside people's heads is wrong. Because the ideology is wrong, the country falls into chaos, life becomes hard, and development doesn't happen. That's the cause, understand? Did those members of the National Assembly become members to make money? What kind of place is that? Why meet those people, swallow their money, and do things like that? If anyone received even a single piece of candy, President L should cut them all down and wipe them out. The people work day and night until they're exhausted, earn money, and pay taxes. They go to factories, work to the bone for wages, pay taxes, and if they pay all that tax for the country. From that money, members of the National Assembly also take their salaries. They earn money every month and take a salary, and they get paid a lot, those people. But if taking that salary is enough to live on without any problem, why do they keep going around everywhere holding out their hands? When I look at it from here, it's full, I'm telling you. They didn't become members of the National Assembly to make money like this. When you see people in the assembly shouting, making noise, yelling, and screaming like mad, their bellies are just filled with filth. If they come up like that next time, you must not vote for them. Absolutely not, those people. So when you look at it this time, President L has been doing really well. These days, gathering people together. When I look these days, he even gathers all the cabinet members and keeps asking this and that and investigating everything. He's doing it really well. But there are hardly any people who speak properly and correctly. They all mumble, and they have no knowledge. There isn't anyone who clearly pulls something out like this, comes to the president, and answers properly. When I look at it, because their heads are blocked, they think it's right, but if you listen with an awakened mind, it's nonsense. When the president hears it, it must feel suffocating. They're doing it these days, you know. Even earlier, listening in the room, I heard about our K&S, what you call it there? Solar power, right? Listening to the president and the people involved, they're talking. I've been saying this from before. S is not a place to do that kind of solar power. It's a national industrial base complex. It was made so you could build factories there and operate, not made to do solar power. S is a place built by pouring in countless amounts of money. Why build factories in places like this? And why are they sitting there building semiconductors in places like G? They should go to S. When I look at it, that solar power costs a lot of money. To install it, I heard today you have to invest hundreds of billions, even over $1 trillion or something. I don't know why they put solar power on a place where they block the sea with such difficulty so it could become an industrial complex in the future. They're making policy wrong. They should rip it all out and tear it down, and move the big factories in places like G by tearing them out and relocating them to S. Listening to the news straight through today, in G, do you know how expensive housing prices are these days when you go to G? Even if the government tries to hold down housing prices, they don't get held down, and they keep rising like this. You know, after investigating, the president was curious too. Why on earth do housing prices in G not fall, keep rising, and why are they so expensive? Mostly members of the National Assembly, some ministers, people in high positions, those kinds of people live there. And there were many people who own 10, 15 homes in G. Who are those people? Not business owners. Members of the National Assembly or people in government agencies had them all. 15 showed up. If it's 15, how much money is that? So President L needs to change his thinking once. People who have that much money, are that rich, and own more than 10 homes in G, how full of greed their insides must be. And as if that isn't enough, they sit in good places like that and wield power, so housing prices in G don't fall. They're making sure they don't fall. When selecting cabinet members or members of the National Assembly, they reveal all their assets, their own assets, right? But what's the point of revealing them after they're selected? They have to investigate everything before selecting them. As for this, the country being able to do well already, it's been ruined and toppled over. From what I see, what kind of bastard owns more than 10 homes in G? If I say this, those people will dislike it, but if they have a conscience, they should let go and think. They never develop other places, because housing prices in G would fall. Places like P and A are even better locations than G. In the past, you probably don't know well about G. In the past, G was nothing but mountains and ridges and mountains, land you couldn't even use. G is a place that Mr. J developed and made, but it was unusable land. Go to A or P. The flatland is incredible. The land is incredibly good, and the prime auspicious sites are AP and A. AP is AP, the place announced as the #1 redevelopment site in our country. maybe the year before last or last year, but they have no intention of doing it. If they develop here, housing prices in G would fall. So over there, from H cross the railroad, cross the H bridge, what is it? They only slightly develop that side going down through B, and they don't develop it. Why is there a reason for not developing? If this place becomes better, that place gets pushed out so they don't do it. Even though S and A are attached, if you compare land prices in A with S, it's not even a match. Why is that? People who own many homes in G make it so this side doesn't get developed. Quietly, those guys are trying to protect their assets. What kind of bastard has this many houses? A person only needs one house, why own more than 10 apartments? Isn't that corrupt? The president should clean all that up completely. Then there's nothing else. What is the one thing I'm asking President L for? He has to strike with taxes, there's nothing else. Just taxes. He has to strike with taxes. He has to strike with taxes. People living out in the provinces, in places like G or the outskirts, have no money, live in poverty. And because they have no money, they go out to those outskirts, don't they? Then instead of shooting fire from your eyes to squeeze taxes out of those people, and always peering at it if they put a few coins in a bank, instead of looking at how much money they earned and deposited in the bank. People with lots of homes in G, people with lots of money, you have to sweep them with taxes. Only then do they say the president does politics well and is a good president. If you leave that alone, after the president serves a little and passes by, people will look down on him, saying he can't govern. You have to make the gap between rich and poor not so extreme, make it more similar like this, but it doesn't work, does it? If you hammer them with taxes, even if you tell them to live there, they can't, because they have to pay taxes out of what they earn. So there's no other method. If you tell them to sell apartments, they'll say, why are you telling me to sell someone else's apartment? So there's nothing else, you have to sweep it out with taxes. And another thing is, there are many people who have lots of money but don't pay taxes, right? They say they can't, because the house is under the wife's name. Whether it's the wife, the grandson, or whoever, if they're merely living in that house, you seize the house unconditionally and take it away. What is law, anyway? Law is something humans made. A made law, right? Why am I saying this? I'm saying it so we can live equally. Whether you live well or have no money, you should live equally. Just because you have money, you shouldn't throw power around like that. I was shocked about apartments. They say one person has as many as 15 homes in G. Hey, that's something. In G, isn't it usually about 2-3 billion won? Even if you just estimate 3 billion won as typical, then 10 is 30 billion won, 5 is 15 billion won, 45 billion won just in house prices. Hey, does that make sense? You have to sweep it with taxes. If the president doesn't order it, other people can't do it. If they try to do that, taxes will go out. Why would they do it? They'll say among themselves, let's not do it. The president has to give the order. Raise it all with taxes. Say to sweep it all out with taxes, then with taxes. That's how the country can live equally. Even President L, when you look at him, was living in a shabby place, in a shabby apartment. The living room was small and the kitchen was small. He was living in a shabby place. Do you only become president if you have a lot of money and are rich? People should be equal in the life we live, right? So think carefully. Anyone go to the Yonghwa world? A person with a lot of greed cannot go. I'm telling you. Why? A person with a lot of greed doesn't consider others even this much consideration. If you have greed, would you want to give to others? Isn't that so? These days, even business people may be having a hard time living, but when year end comes, you know the S. These people always hold a bell and shake it like this, and at year end they shake it like this. But from what I see, I haven't seen it for several years already, right? I can't tell whether people have that little money, or whether they've become stingy. Those people do that S work of helping the underprivileged. They do. But these days, even that isn't there. Then I can't tell whether life has become harder, or whether people have become stingier. It was like that in the old days too. Rich people You should take some of that money away and share it with those who have none in the past. There was politics like that, I'm telling you. In the old days, when President L was doing politics, there was something called annual repayment. Annual repayment. What is annual repayment? I farmed 10 mijigi worth of this person's land. I farm 10 mijigi of someone else's land, and then in the autumn I give land like this. That's what happens. Because they have a lot of land and can't farm it all, they give it out to others like this. They give it saying, farm it, and in the autumn they receive land like this. But what the government did was announce a policy called annual repayment. So, someone farms 10 mijigi of this person's rice paddy. Then you write it down, so and so is farming and living off 10 mijigi of this person's paddy. And if you write it down, they hand the paddy over to the person who farmed it. There was an annual repayment system in the old days. Do you know? So my great-grandfather entrusted my uncle by marriage to run the temple. But that uncle by marriage was a pure thief and con artist. So he made a lot of money and bought about 100 and some tens of mijigi of land. But because he couldn't pay all that money, he gave land to others. And because there was the annual repayment system, the paddies were all taken away. My great-grandfather entrusted him to run the temple, and he made money and bought that much land. I'm telling you, he was a pure thief. Then, since it was his grandfather, shouldn't he have handed over money to my great-grandfather? Without giving any money to his grandfather, that thief tucked it all into his pockets, hid it, and secretly bought many paddies. He bought it all, and because he couldn't farm all the paddies, he gave the land to others. He gave it like that. But in the old days, because that annual repayment system existed, if the people farming someone else's paddy wrote down their names, everything got taken away starting that very day. There was an annual repayment system in the old days. Originally, it's illegal. If you really look into it, that's illegal, but the country carried out a policy like that. But even if they can't do it like that, when someone has that much land and is rich, as if that isn't enough, they also serve as a minister, and as a member of the National Assembly they're always a permanently planted member. They keep being a member of the National Assembly. If you look over there, it's one person doing it over and over. Isn't that wrong? They sit there throwing their weight around and bragging loudly. Then nobody can do anything about that person, because they have lots of money too. What can you do? The country has to govern it by law. If you're a member of the National Assembly, if you want to be a member, leave only the one house you live in and dispose of everything immediately, like this. And if you're a minister, leave just one house and dispose of the rest, like this. Do that within 1 month. If 1 month passes, they will seize everything, like this. Also, if a public official owns those houses, then either sell them all and keep only one. Otherwise, they must give up the public office and give up all the houses. They must have only one. The president has to implement that immediately. When a person has a lot of money, when they look at someone without money, they don't see them as a human being. They look down on them as being not even as good as a pebble on the roadside. Everyone, look, M isn't here today. Why hasn't M been coming lately? That young man went to a hospital and worked as a nursing assistant. But the hospital makes a 1-year contract and only contracts for 11 months. 11 months and 15 days, or 20 days, like that, instead of 12 months for a full year. This hospital makes contracts like 11 months, or 11 months and about 10 days. Why do they do that? It's because they don't want to pay severance pay. I'm telling you, he's here. And today the young man didn't show up. Maybe he had something to do and didn't come. That's how they steal and eat. So they pull tricks like that to avoid paying severance pay. Then the president has to turn over all workplaces that employ people, small business owners, hospitals, places like that, and bring down the blade. Raise the blade and bring down the hammer on every owner who set it up like this. 11 months. 11 months. So the year isn't completed, just to avoid paying severance pay. Isn't that right? Back when I ran a factory and did business, I didn't do filthy things like that. It's filthy. A hospital is a place with so many profit interests. Hospitals make money, people just don't know how much money they make. Hospitals are places that make money, And when they do that, I was horrified. Right here in front, hospital people are truly bad guys. How can they employ people like that? The president was talking about that. I listened the other day, and he was saying they make people work for 11 months without completing 12. Then kick them out, and kick them out to avoid paying severance pay. But on that, the president had heard proper information from someone. You can't let them do that, you have to investigate everything. Investigate it, small business owners, any factory, anyone running a business, restaurants, anyone who keeps and employs people, they should all be made to do that and submit it. Search thoroughly. Why exploit human beings to make money by using people so meanly and shamelessly like that, right? They're bad guys. That's why I said that a lot when holding a Buddhist meeting. I said there aren't many good people. They're all rotten bastards. Where is there a truly good person among humans? Even after doing wrong, they act like they didn't, get angry, and grind their teeth like this. Look at politicians when you see their faces. They look exactly like a messenger of death. The person who made the president while claiming they do politics is in prison now, sitting there eating prison food. But what did they do so well that they grind their teeth and act like this whenever they try to do anything? They really look disgusting. I'm telling you, they look disgusting. What did they do so well? When you look at members of the National Assembly, they look like a messenger of death. Where did they go and elect people like that again? So because they do politics like that, people who can't live well remain unable to live well, and there's nothing they can do. You don't really know, do you? From over there to the very end of the city, try driving straight through at night. On the lower level, only the first floor has shops open like this, and the floors above second and third are all empty. They're empty. I went to be the year before last, and when I went, I drove straight from in front of B station to H, and even in broad daylight, there were shops everywhere with their doors closed and shutter doors pulled down. So that neighborhood is finished. If things weren't desperate, why would they have shut down? In this world, people with money have endlessly much money, and people without money keep shrinking and there's no way out. That's why I'm saying this. They own more than 10 apartments in G, and then to make money again. Those people aren't doing it to make money, they're doing it to protect it, to protect having a lot. That's the kind of world it is. If we want to live well and live richly, human beings must live equally and well across the board. If only one side lives well, it isn't a country that lives well, right? So this is what I was saying earlier. Did they block off the sea at S to do things like solar power? If you pull the big factories here down to the south, how great would it be to go there and run factories? There's a port next to it and an airport too. So if you make something, you load it onto ships. If you make something, you load it onto planes and send it off. It's unbelievably good. The air is good, and the air by the sea is good. How great is that? Why must they only slowly build factories right here in G and muddle around like that? Isn't that right? So I know it all, presidents and people doing politics, because I say it. That's why you know. Now the times have changed, so we have to tear out the factories that exist and move them down. What is this era of local decentralization? The other day, yesterday, I saw that President L pointed it out very well. Why subsidize only S university with a lot of money? If they're the same state-run universities operated by the country, then regional national universities should also receive the same subsidies and be supported well. Why is it that if it's S university, they pour everything into it? Isn't that right? Only if you invigorate regional national universities will good talent come out of them. And if good talent comes out, what is a good university there? Only when you provide cooperation like that does it become a good university. Otherwise, finances fall short and students can't study well. So even though the president governs so well, when I see people grumbling, saying he can't govern, and picking fights, I'm telling you it looks disgusting. It's better than someone who drinks alcohol day and night and lies around giggling in broad daylight. Isn't that right? What's the use of talking about an era of local decentralization only in words? It's useless if it's only words. There's no need for it, right? Before, because presidents always came only from the G side. They always looked only that way.
because presidents always came from only that side D.P. that side.
In the old days, if you went to D, they'd brag loudly, saying their backing is strong. They'd puff themselves up, saying they're close relatives of the president. People in D are funny people. When I went there in the old days. So what if you're relatives? And what if you aren't? Does the president run things only for relatives? So look, these days life in D is hard. If you go to D, there aren't many factories. So what place is there to earn money for D people? So they became awakened. Oh, even if a president comes out of here, what good is it? Life is hard. Does the president keep doing it until death? After a few years, they have to step down and leave. So now, go to D. People have opened their eyes now. The other day, someone went down from the assembly to D talking about this and that, and people stared and said, "Why did you come here?" Go. They said, "Why did you come here? I don't want to see your face." They hate it, is what it is. It means there's nothing much for them even if I follow you around. They have to live their own lives. What good is it to follow members of the National Assembly? Isn't that right? You have to bring an enormous amount of electricity. But electricity in a place like this, if you set a factory up here, the money it takes to pull electricity in is beyond imagination. To bring electricity in, you have to pull it from the third stage, and why? You don't really know about the cost of pulling it in. That's why. I'm an expert on things like that because I've done business for a long time. So why is there any need to spend that much money to pull electricity in? If you go down there, they'll practically give you the land for free. There's plenty of water, electricity is close, and bringing electricity in is no big deal. From what I see, this is governing badly. That's why I'm saying this. When I went and saw it, they had laid out electric panels all along an S. So I said, "You rotten bastards, why did you build this here? You should build factories." This is what I'm saying to the president. I'm saying tear out everything that's there and pull the factories here down there. Only then will future descendants' sons and grandsons live well for generations going forward. If things go on like this, the rich won't have 15 apartments in G. They'll increase to 20, 30, 40, endlessly. Probably if it continues like this, right? If we want to live well in equality, we must not do that. It can't be done. So before, products from all the factories in places like G and S around here were loaded into containers, taken to B, exported, and the goods went out. These days they built P port, they built I port, and because of that there aren't many cases where goods go down to B. So people in B keep finding life getting harder. If you go to B, there's S. When you went there, containers used to be swarming. But these days the goods have to go for that to happen. These days they just cut it off in the middle and clear it all away. Even with cars, when imports come in from overseas and go out, a lot used to go out from B. But these days they load it all here at P. Then if B can't handle that cargo volume anymore, generally they should do something else instead, shouldn't they? But they don't do that. Why am I saying this? Religion isn't necessary, I'm telling you. Living our lives is what has purpose. What good is it to go in front of a dead guy's Buddha statue and beg, making a scene, asking to be saved? They're crazy. What are they doing? Sitting there with their eyes closed? There's nothing there. On a piece of wood, on a carved piece of wood, they nail a cross like this, and then they beg and pray to it. What are they doing? Bring it into your house, go to the place with that wooden post and nail it in. If you live in an era like that, surrounding countries like C will look down on K. I'm telling you, these days, because the J Prime Minister said one word wrong, the C people got angry, and these days it's the minister, right? Do you know what people used to call C people in the old days? They called them Nam. Do you know why they're called Nam? When they get angry, you can't stop them, those Nam. They say they strip a child completely and run 10 ri, 100 ri, in the dead of winter, those Nam. That's how frightening a person at Nam is, I'm telling you. So in the old days our country had the nation taken away by J. J people then gobbled up C and even invaded R. So would C people have no feelings about that? If you think about things like that, you don't know. We know well because we went through 6.25, but you don't really know. If your country is taken away, it's miserable. When night came, you slept inside an underground tunnel. These days, go in the dead of winter and try going into a dug tunnel and sit there. It's cold, your teeth chatter, and you can't sleep. If you do sleep, your whole body aches because the damp comes up and makes your teeth chatter. And you stay up through the night there, and when the rooster crows, the reds go away, so you come out when the rooster crows. Then you catch a little sleep at home. That's how they lived. I'm telling you, living like that is how we lived after suffering under J people. But look at young people these days. As soon as their eyes open and hair grows on their heads, they rush off to J. It's chaotic. They don't even hold ancestral rites. And when Chuseok comes, they just go to J for fun. What do you do there, going to J? If you have nowhere to spend money, what good is it to go to J and come back? There's nothing there. Even if you go, you can't even calculate how stingy J people are. J people are stingy. Even if you go to a close friend, J people don't readily buy you even a single meal. So we have to live well so that people around us, people like that, don't look down on us. These days, because our country lives well like this, J people see that they're being pushed back by K. So because of that, they say next year they'll raise the defense budget to 80 trillion won and put it into military facilities. Our president says our defense budget will be 60 trillion won, but we have to raise it more. If J is 80, we should be 81. If J is 81, we should be 82. We have to raise it like that. So in fact, if you really know it, we are closer with C than with J. C people are victims, and we are victims too, aren't we? Who was the J Prime Minister who got shot and died last time? It was A, right? Do you know how much he abused power over us? They're wicked J bastards, A. And because of that, with semiconductors, back then S went through hardship, you know. So his nature was that bad. Because A was ill-natured and lived with the mind of a pure thief. When that guy went out, campaigning and was doing this and that, someone shot him and he just died. He didn't just get shot and die, he died well. Why are you laughing? He died well. Someone like that should die quickly. He must not live too long. That's why he kept abusing power over our country and doing that, right? But if you really know it, J needs to be taught a lesson once. Our country can't do it. So C has to teach them a lesson once. In truth, they have to be taught a lesson. They're bad guys, J bastards. So today, this sermon I'm saying is for us to live well, become rich, and live well. What is it? When we die, you also have children and grandchildren. If we want to keep living well generation after generation, shouldn't the country have to do well for it to be like that? That's why I'm saying it. It has nothing to do with me. If someone has 10 apartments, so what? If they have 100, so what? I don't ask for it. And even if I asked, are they the kind of people who would give? But our country has to do well so that descendants will have an easier time living in the future, right? That's why I'm saying it. What does it matter if they have 10 apartments or 100? It has nothing to do with me, right? When I say this, do you know what those guys say? They snort and probably curse at me when I say this. Let them try cursing at me. Those people's households will shrivel completely. Not just their living will collapse. The person themselves will shrivel and disappear. Try being rude to me once. Am I lying? If you're rude to me, the person themselves disappears. Everything shrivels up. Quite a lot of people have died from being rude to me. It's because I don't talk about it. That's why. Even in S, when we were doing prostrations in S, and then we came here, right? When we came here, there was a woman who cleaned that building. A couple did the cleaning, and because the mart is big, lots of boxes and things come out, right? Because so much comes out, they cleared it away and lived like that. They also wiped the stairs and cleaned, and we paid a cleaning fee every month. We paid it, but you have to wash the mop cloth and wipe with it. Without even washing that mop cloth, she just wiped today. Then she put it aside and wiped again tomorrow, and put it aside again and did it like that the day after tomorrow too. That woman is so far gone that it would be better not to wipe at all. If she wipes, the stench comes out so you can't even breathe. For a month, for 2 months, she doesn't wash it. So what did I say? Hey, female Buddhist, you should wash this and wipe. If you wipe without washing, it smells, so it's better not to wipe at all. Oh, and this woman just grumbled and grumbled. Where did she learn to be so rude? Grumbling at an elder. I pay the cleaning fee every month, and because I felt sorry for her, I even gave rice and treated her well. Because I felt sorry for her, I always gave a sack of rice, and I gave fruit too. She was a nasty woman, from wherever. But this woman grumbled and then went and riled up her husband too. So whenever he saw me, his mouth would go like this again. Like a pig's snout, like this. Oh, they were nasty. Humans are such nasty breeds. So on the day she was wiping that, what did I say? Either wash it and wipe, or don't wipe. Because of the smell, I can't even walk around, the rotten stench is coming out. But she kept grumbling and grumbling, and then that evening she died. That night, that very evening, she died right away. She was a perfectly fine woman. Back when I ran a factory, it's like that because I don't talk about it. People who took goods from me, cheated me out of payment, ran away saying they went bankrupt. Those people died in terrifying numbers. It's like that because I don't talk about it. The money I have is different from other people's money. I ran a factory and made money in order to buy meals for the homeless and use it to help pitiful people. That's why I ran a factory and earned money. I'm telling you, I didn't earn money just to eat my fill and live eating my fill. Many people who stole that money died. Even their children died. And honestly, there were many cases where perfectly fine people died. I also kept bees here. And I told a female Buddhist to watch the bees. And I raised the bees well to harvest honey. When the bees increased a lot, I split them and made 2 hives. But someone stole one of them. Why steal someone else's? They stole it. But would the one who stole it be someone from far away? Or would it be someone I know from around this area? Think about it. Even theft is done by someone you know. So the one who stole it was a perfectly fine young guy, but he died. If it were me, I'd live without stealing bees. Why steal someone else's bees and then die? He died a sudden death. He was struck by sudden death. Do you know? The logic of the world is the same. If a president governs wrongly, they go to prison. Otherwise they go to a penitentiary, suffer, and come out. Don't you know when you look once? How corrupt would they have been to end up going like that? Why steal what belongs to others? So that young guy died, the one who stole the bees. The very act of stealing someone else's things and having greed is corrupt, right? If you are going to go to the Yonghwa world next, stay there, and then be reborn. Throw away thoughts like that. Do you understand? Live honestly and then go. Yes. Go to an honest place. A corrupt person goes to a corrupt place, right? For us to live well and become rich, the fundamentals have to be set right. If the fundamentals aren't in place, it won't do. Do you understand? The fundamentals have to be set right. That's why I've said it several times, we shouldn't live richly only in S. The regions also have to live well. And the regions also have to live richly. If we're going to live equally like that, we have to share everything. Do you understand? We have to share, and we should also drive the factories concentrated in S down to the lower areas, right? If we drive them down, then to live and make a living there, what should we do with the houses we already have? You have to sell them. Why keep building houses?
Do you think that if you go to places like the U, F, or J, they have apartments like S?
They don't. Only our country, unusually, has apartments packed like a beansprout basket. To make a country that's good to live in, you must not build apartments. Now listen carefully. Why did they build apartments in the first place? Because in the regions, all the houses shut down and become abandoned homes. Why do you think that happens? Because everyone living there comes up to S. They keep building apartments. This is a big problem. Just watch later. It's not a lie. Our country's population is around 50 million now. But going forward it keeps decreasing. It doesn't increase. It decreases. And when it decreases, I saw on the news the other day that in our country, single people living alone, 1/3 live alone. It was more than 1/3. They said it's about 40%. they're swarming with people who live alone. And people who didn't marry also live alone. But there are so many people who grow old and live alone that you can't imagine it. But when all of them die, what happens then? Instead of building apartments, we have to stop building apartments. Stop it, and send all the big factories in G down to the regions. And only if we firmly establish the era of local decentralization will President Al be praised like, he really did a great work. And they say they'll move the Blue House to S City, but S City can't be used.
It can't be used, and we have to go to D.
Go to D, abolish S City too, incorporate it into D. And D City's population has to become about 5 million to 7 million. At minimum, about 7 million. We have to make D similar to S.
Only then can places like D, B, J, G, and C province live well as a country.
Got it? This isn't for you to listen to, it's for these people to listen to. To listen. When you bite all 5 fingers, is there a finger that doesn't hurt? There isn't, right? Are only the people here precious? And the countryside people down there not precious? Are they some child brought along? Our country originally isn't a country that lives by developing through industry, it's originally a country that lives through agriculture. They say military readiness. Military readiness, if there's no food to eat, then you starve to death while fighting a war and you lose everything. From old times, only if you store a lot of rice and have a lot of military rice can you win a war. Do you know how good our farmland is if you go just as far as G? That's why I'm telling you, K is the most blessed country in the world. If I modify rice and make it, then even if you eat just one piece of rice this big, you won't get hungry even if the whole day passes. Countryside people eat rice, meals like this, right? Because it has no nutritional value. They eat it, it's pure carbohydrates. To fill your stomach, you have to eat like this. But because there are no nutrients in the stomach, it has to go in like this. It just stuffs only the intestines full, into the intestines. But if you make rice as a grain that has nutritional value, you don't need to eat a lot. You must not eat a lot. When you take supplements, do you eat a whole handful? Even one is enough. In that way, as we live, we need to know that a good world is coming in the future. So now stop building houses in S, stop redevelopment too, and go down to the lower areas. I'm urging you very strongly. Go down. You don't really know these days, right? Our country's economy is in terrible shape right now. Now we export only a bit of cars and semiconductors, other things like steel don't export well these days. Go look at P Steelworks right now. It's piled up like a mountains of it. Because there's nowhere to sell it, there's nowhere to sell. So it's not that you make a lot of goods and sell them to earn money. And people at P Steelworks have to listen to what I say. I'm telling you, you don't earn money just because you make a lot of good products and sell them. Even if you produce less, you have to make and release premium products that others can't even imitate for the added value to be high. That's what I'm saying, develop that, premium products. So if our country is to live well, that means we have to invest everything into places like that. Don't keep building houses only in S. Go into an apartment complex once it's dark, and at night it's scary, go and see. Am I lying? Turn off all the lights in the apartment complexes and go in and see. I'm telling you, inside an apartment complex is scary. At night when it's dark, let a drizzle come down and see. Even if some guy covers you up, throws something over you, and takes you away, you won't know. So why buy a house like that, is what I'm saying. So since what we have is already enough, stop building houses now and use your head for other things. And in human life, life is precious. Even in G City, I saw they said 4 people died because the steel frame collapsed while building a library. Then the architectural designers are bogus. Then people doing dangerous work at factories would die every day. Do you know how thoroughly they manage things? So those kinds of people must be made so they can never do construction again, never again. And how resentful would the dead people be? The dead people, even if they had some fault, they pay compensation like it's a dog's death, give it a few times and end it, and even selling the whole factory and giving it wouldn't be enough. They have to pay a lot of compensation, tens of billions of won. Only then if you give just a few coins, it's a dog's death, isn't it? Right? If you want to run the country properly, you have to make policies like that. Aren't they pitiful people? So as the president takes charge of a very chaotic country and tries to make policy, it will be hard in many ways, and he won't be able to sleep at night and it will be difficult. But what can be done? Since he shouldered the burden once and became president, he has to govern the country well and do well, right? Companies have to go out and earn money. They must not try to earn money only here. They have to go out and earn money. But they must not try to earn money only here. That we die and go to a good place. I've told you that repeatedly, countless times, so you know it well. So I'm saying these things so that we live and live our lives well. I'm old too, so I don't know when I'll die, but after I die, who would say words like this? No one will, right? These days, if you say something slightly bad, something people don't want to hear, they curse you to pieces. If they want to curse at me, let them. I have to do it. If something is wrong, you have to say it. Isn't that right? I have no children, no grandchildren, nothing, but other people all have families, children and grandchildren. If K is to live richly and well in the future, then it has to implement policies like that. What I'm saying is right, isn't it? In a way, I'm a Nobel Prize. I'm a person who could receive a Nobel Prize. I taught everything I know, and for decades I earned money and fed and supported pitiful beggars. In a way, I'm the king of beggars. Am I not the king of beggars? The government can't do that. Even last night, when I watched the president gather state ministers and people like that and receive reports, I sighed and truly couldn't sleep at night. Because when I listened to the contents of the reports, it was too sloppy. Because I ran big businesses in the past, I know the moment I see it, I know at a glance. If I were the president, I'd say it's nonsense. You, get out, take off your uniform and get out. Are you trying to collect a salary like this? Get out. Right there on the spot. I would catch it immediately. They've been doing this with no basis and no end. This is like pouring water into a bottomless jar. How can you govern like this? If it were me, I'd say, get out, immediately. The people are the ones who sweat blood, earn money until their backs break, pay taxes, and give those people salaries. They're people who live off salaries, so they must not do things in such a slipshod, muddling way. When I looked at those people, the country looked rotten. The country is rotten. When I looked, there wasn't much that they came and clearly presented to the president. There was almost nothing. And in the future, instead of the president doing it directly, you have to set dates one by one. Make them extract everything and bring it in. And create a judicial institution that specializes only in handling that. Create it, and they should go in there and present and do it. Because the president is called the ruler of the country, he can't even speak harshly. Even knowing it, he just lets it pass. The president can't be harsh, right? So he lets it pass again, then it doesn't improve. So you have to do it very firmly. And there's a lot when I look, and when you do it and look. If you look closely, there are countless people committing sins, yet they walk around boldly, swaggering and speaking loudly. We have to make new laws. Our country has to make new laws, create new people, and create new policies. If you just stumble through and let it slide like this, all the embers stay alive and it becomes a problem again. When a mountain catches fire, is there originally a separate big fire? A tiny spark grows, burns the whole mountain, and burns a big mountain. With this, it won't work. It has to be made anew. To make it anew so our country becomes clean and a model nation in the world, we have to make it anew and do new things. That's how I see it. When I look at it like this, yes, when you look at prosecutors and judges, they're all the same dish with the same rice. When you look like this, when they look at ordinary people, if we do even a small thing wrong, they grab us, crush us, and lock us up. But when they see slightly higher up people, they go on about no detention. What no detention? They let them all go. No one else can do that except the president. The president has to create a judicial institution and make it by investigating anew. With what exists now, it won't work no matter how many days you do it. It's useless. It's useless. If the president stays like this and just lets it pass and ends it, then after he's done, there will be no great contribution. So you have to do it anew. I'm telling you, when I watch TV and see the news, it looks disgusting. Why is a guy like that out here, sprawled around? Why is someone who should be in prison eating only prison food out here walking around like that? If you look, it's swarming, so who goes and locks them up? It isn't even funny. Every day, it's only people without money, without power, poor people like that. If they do even a small thing wrong, they grab them and lock them up, and they raise their performance numbers with that. If detectives at the police station can't catch even one thief and just loaf around every day with nothing, what do? They need some kind of performance, right? So they keep dragging in only these petty hustlers and sit there crushing them every day, right? Pitiful people. We have to change the law, all of it. I told you last time, didn't I? Someone drinks, needs to pee, has nowhere to pee, so they pee on the street and they grab them and lock them up. They slap fines on them and do things like that, I'm telling you. But rich people just get let off. They can't even collect taxes from them. And they can't even collect the money they've hidden. No, why do they leave rich people's taxes alone? They should lock the person up. Truly bad people. People who don't pay taxes and don't pay tens of millions of one, even hundreds of millions. When you go search, it isn't there. They say there's no property under that person's name and so on. Then what kind of country like that exists? If you grab them, lock them up, and rot them for 10 years or 20 years, they'll pay the money. But they don't lock them up when they go search, it isn't there. They go in suddenly and inspect, and the money isn't there. Then what country operates like that? Then I should hide all my money too and not pay taxes. Isn't that right? You have to grab the person and lock them up right then and there, until they pay the money. That would solve it. But they don't lock them up. Truly bad people. They go search and the money isn't there, meaning if it isn't there, they can't lock them up. If it's there, they take it. If it's not, then never mind. Damn it. So people without money, without power, people who get cheated out always live pitifully like this and die. That's what I'm saying. Got it? That's why I made the Yonghwa world. Listen carefully. Why do you think I made the Yonghwa world? That's why I made it, the Yonghwa world. People with no money, no connections, no power, people who live their lives miserably. People who can't force themselves to die even though they're alive, so that such people can die and go to the Yonghwa world. I made the Yonghwa world. Do you know? Why would someone with lots of money, rich, living gloriously and abundantly and well, go to the Yonghwa world after they die? They haven't even done good deeds. Just because they're rich, did they buy a bowl of food when homeless people were sitting on the street? They have no qualification to go, right? Have you ever seen the government take taxes and give money so that homeless people can be fed? No, right? There isn't. Then what good deeds have rich people done? They don't pay taxes, they hide money, and so on. Lock them up immediately. If you lock the person up, how would you not find the money? There's no need to rummage around to go find the money. If they don't pay, then lock the person up and the money comes out. I don't know why they run laws like that in a democratic country, right? So people with no money, no power, nowhere to go to even ask to borrow a single one. The place made for people living this hard is the Yonghwa world. If you go to the Yonghwa world, there are also many people there who did not take commandments of Buddhism. Those who did not take commandments of Buddhism, who are they? People who do good things in society. If they do good deeds and build virtue, they can go. You know my mother. On the day my mother passed away, on the day of the funeral procession, how did I send her to the Yonghwa world? On the day of the procession, isn't that right? You saw it, didn't you? Didn't you see the photo? The photo of entering the Yonghwa world, the photo of riding a dragon and going straight in. Did you see it or not? That's how you go. I'm telling you. What matters is how a person lives, saying that while alive you build blessings. How many blessings would you have built? Do you know how terrifying my father was? You can't even imagine. You can't even have a conversation about it. Do you know how terrifying he was? So at a young age, about 3, 5, 7 when I hadn't even entered school, not even elementary school. Back then my mother and I were 20 years apart. If I was 5, my mother was 25. These days, she wouldn't even be married, people would call her a young lady. But we were always driven out, and because we were driven out, we had to starve. We couldn't eat because we were thrown out. And since it happened so much, I said to my mother, "Mother, let's die, what's the point of living? We should die. Because we were thrown out every day," I said, "Mom, let's die," several times. There's a limit to what a person can endure. I'm telling you, I told my mother we should die, told her we should die. I said that when I was 5, 6, 7. Not just once, I said it many times. So when I look at the very thing called a human being, at the human existence, I've been someone who was enlightened about people since I was young. I'm telling you, someone enlightened. But after becoming an adult, living in society, doing business, doing good things in society, living like this, I often thought, do I have to live in a country like this? Suffering from when I was young, suffering painfully at my parents' hands, growing up like that, and then living in society. When you go out into society, earn money, live society life, and also buy food for homeless people and beggars crouching on the street, then you realize, so this is what society is like. Doesn't that thought arise? You don't know because you haven't gone through that process. Then when you see politicians doing politics like this, and politicians living like this, what do you think I think? Human beings are so precious, and when you die, it's the end. So when I look at politicians, some people might feel offended if I say it, but they aren't even people. In broad daylight, they slander people, curse, and grind their teeth. I'm telling you, they aren't even people. Human beings are so precious. They sit on the street because they have no money. Would someone with money sit like that on the street? That person too was born precious into the world. But as they lived, the world became hard and things didn't work out, so they became a beggar. Thinking of that means humans are not equal. That's what it means. If the government took taxes and, for workers in winter, at least bought them even a jacket. If it bought them even a jacket because it's cold and they might freeze to death, I think that would be really good. But they don't even do that. So that's what I was saying earlier. How expensive apartments and houses in GRG is the most expensive place in our country, right? If people have that many houses, 10-something houses, then this country is wrong. The president has to cut with the knife. If the president feels resentful, why do this to rich people? Even if they feel resentful, they have to clean it all up completely. That's how it should be. Grab everyone trying to build factories in G, sit them down, and tell them, don't do it here. If we're to live as equals and pass the country down to future descendants, what are you trying to do by using this land here for things like this? Let's go down to the regions. I'll go down too. And then you have to lead them down. If regional people earn money and the earning is good, why would they come to us? They won't even come if you tell them to, right? If you work in the regions, when even one factory goes to the regions, this isn't just about one factory. There are thousands of partner companies attached to that one factory. All those people go there too. Then the economy opens up incredibly. Isn't that right? Why do they crowd into only one place and do things like that? It's very wrong. This is what has to be done. If money is lacking and moving costs are insufficient, then the government should provide the money. Give moving costs so they can go there. Provide land too. Sell it cheaply. And later pay back the land price little by little. And give the land in the regions. That's how you send them to the regions. Why are they all crowded here, packed in, only here? Why? Even now, when you look, this regional economy, the regional antagonism is still severe. It's not just a little severe. President L has to raise the knife. Why are they straining to spend trillions of won to pull electricity from the mountain areas of Y in the regions all the way up to here? Why spend that money when you could simply go down below and it's simple? Isn't that right? So I'm saying these things in many ways. So about previous presidents, would I not evaluate them like this? Everyone evaluates them. When you evaluate them, it's not only the ones who go to prison who are wrong. When you look at the ones who didn't go, they're also too sloppy. So who should be the president? No, it's not like they're making me do it. Who should do it? The chairman of major conglomerates should do it. The president should be someone like Samsung's JL, or the chairman of S, or the chairman of H. People like that should be president. The president doesn't even know business, is completely clueless, and only knows how to catch thieves, lock them up, and crush them. He doesn't know anything else, right? No, if you make Samsung's JL the president, he wouldn't keep being chairman. He would step down and run for the country. Because they are masters of business, they're experts in how to make money and how things fail. The people serving as president now aren't even the toe grime compared to them. If you try to match them, only when such people take hold of the country and become president does the country do well and earn money and so on. How can a completely clueless guy be president? That's why the country doesn't work. What I'm saying is right, isn't it? That's how it looks to me. So after President L's term ends, politicians must not be president. Absolutely must not. Why? The country won't work. There won't be development like that. So the next president must be a conglomerate owner. Just because Samsung's chairman becomes president, that doesn't mean he grows only Samsung like this. Do you know? So Samsung's chairman should be president, then someone from S should do it once, then someone from H should do it too. And they should be president. That's how the country does well. How can politicians be president? They have no insight, right? So if the country does well and governance is done in a business-like way somehow, then governance goes well. So the country does well, that's how it should be. So the reason we made the Yonghwa world is that while living in this Sabah world, people who are pitiful and looked down on by others, so that they can go to the Yonghwa world and live comfortably. This is why the Yonghwa world was made. Got it? So long ago, I went to a church and lived there for about 3 years. When I looked into what God is and what Jesus is, the answer is there. A pastor is someone who has made heaven while alive. Why is that? Without lifting a finger, without getting a drop of water on themselves, the believers, people who go to church bring everything. So they eat and live comfortably. Those people are pastors. I said it openly during a lecture for you pastors. Being alive is heaven. If I say, where will you go when you die? Raise your hand. Not a single person can raise a hand. A pastor is someone who goes to hell when they die. So a pastor only makes heaven while alive. Monks are the same. Monks too have made the land of happiness while alive. But after death, even if the land of happiness exists, they can't go. Got it? Reality is reality. The reality I'm living is the land of happiness. And heaven exists here. There's no place you go after you die. Is that so or not? There is nowhere you go after you die. So someone who is full and has lived comfortably as a rich person has made the land of happiness while alive. So if you want to go to the Yonghwa world after you die, you have to do good deeds. That's what I'm saying. So, everyone, look, where do we get the water we drink from? You have to block the water at a reservoir or a dam for there to be water. You have to hold the water back so that when you turn on the tap, water comes out. Where else would the water come from? You can't drink seawater because it's salty. But as time goes by, water will become scarce, and humans will have to drink seawater. That's for sure. You can drink seawater too if you purify it. But before it comes to that, if we want to drink water, we have to block the dam, right? Isn't that so? You have to block the dam so water gathers, and then we drink that water. What is it that protects us? We have to build virtue, right? It's the same as blocking a dam. You have to build virtue so that even other people can benefit from that virtue too, right? Only then do you become a bodhisattva and have the qualification to go to the Yonghwa world. If you alone eat your fill easily, and whether others starve or not doesn't matter to you, how can you go to the Yonghwa world? Isn't that right? If you look at it like this, you can tell the signs show on people too. There aren't as many men as there are women, right? Why is that? A human being isn't made by someone else. I have to make myself. A married couple is two people who met me. People who didn't even know each other's home, didn't know their family line, didn't know their name, yet they became spouses. When those two live together, and you see a woman go into a stranger's home and call completely unfamiliar people father and mother, women really have thick faces, and living life like that. Look at men living alone. Even if a woman only cooks meals, it's something to be truly grateful for. That's part of why men get sick and don't live long. It's in eating. What a person eats determines their lifespan. If the body doesn't have nutrients from what you eat, you can't live long. It's not only people, trees like this are the same too. Even fruit trees, if you keep giving nutrients and fertilizer, the fruit that bore this year will also bear a lot next year and keep bearing month after month. If the soil dries out, the fruit doesn't bear well either. So women are precious. But if you treat women carelessly like that, is that even a human being? My father wasn't even a human being. This isn't me bragging. When I was young, it was so bad that I told my mother we should die. Mother, let's die. So after time passes, people regret it. Why do something you'll regret? You shouldn't do it. Isn't that right? When it comes to money, humans don't even look back. Even siblings, whatever it is, siblings say it's good only if you give them money, right? If you don't give money, their mouth sticks out a whole foot. They don't even open their eyes properly. They stab you with their eyes. That's what humans are like. Do you know? Everyone. By nature I don't lie. Even though I have 7 siblings, they say it's good if you give them money, but if you don't, they won't make even one phone call for 12 months of the year. Then why would I tell them to come? So last time, was it about a month ago? I told them not to come at all on Sundays. Don't come. Why come for that? Think about it. Why come? There's no reason to come. If I'm going to give money, it's better to buy food for beggars. What's the point of giving money to those people? Why? If you give money, their mouth opens. If you don't, their snout twists. Why would you sit there giving them money? Are you crazy? When you feel cold toward someone, when you feel wronged, you should just cut it off. You mustn't drag it on. Right? Yes, absolutely not. They're worse than strangers. Even if there's a fire, the next door neighbor will shout and save you. Would a sibling living far away come running to save you? Siblings are worse than even a friend who lives nearby. So there's nothing to look for. And what even is a sibling? If you live separately, it means you've separated completely. Siblings have to live separately, right? When you marry off and marry in, living separately means you're separated from that day onward. Since you've separated, it means don't look back. So the word siblings means you live your life your way, and I live mine my way. But in some foreign country I saw siblings once they're born. They all lived together in one house. They were swarming like piglets. There are 40 or 50 people swarming in a room, and that's not good. Everyone must scatter and separate. So while you're in the womb you're together, but once you come out you have to separate. They like you if you give money, and they dislike you if you don't. Where is there something like that? I told them not to come at all. I even fixed the phone line. Don't come. Why come here? There's no reason to come. Got it? If you give, they say it's good only for that moment, only right there. When they turn around and leave, it's over. That's why there is something called the Yonghwa world. Why? Because people like that can't go to the Yonghwa world. Even if you give precepts 10 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, they still can't go. Why? If you give, it disappears. If you give, it disappears. If you put in light, it disappears. For those people, if you put it in, it disappears. If you put it in, it disappears. What is this light? It's a construction site. You have to use your mind well if you want to be warmed by sunlight even for one day. You have to use your mind well. If there's even cloud cover, then today is a total wash. Isn't that right? So I am someone who has attained understanding of the world. Because I have attained it, I'm someone who understands people and how the world is lived. There is nothing that hasn't opened. The heavenly eye connection, the heavenly ear connection. If someone speaks ill of me from 1,000 or 10,000 ri away, it all comes into my ears, trickling in. And then what's the point of picking a president and boasting loudly that they're doing well, when I can see it at a glance? Ask even the people who supported President YS. On the voting day, I told our mug, so what if he gets elected? At best he'll do 2 years if he forces it. 3 years, I said. he'll be driven out and won't be able to do it. Ask, am I lying? I know everything about President L too. I know when and how it will go, it's just that I don't say it. If I said, oh, even if you do well, in 2 years you'll be chased out, do you think he'd like that? So I'm not saying anything. I know it exactly when you look at the flow of the times. When a plane takes off and comes down to the ground, it comes down like this, it doesn't go up into the sky and drop people off from the sky, does it? Straight down. I know it 100%. Do you know? Even the U.S. president has to do well. If they do wrong, they can come down like this. Japan's prime minister can become like this too. Do you know? Even Maitreya Buddha, if he lives a long time and doesn't die, if he lives 200 years or 300 years, do you know what happens to people? It doesn't become a good country. If he stays for a while and then leaves, he protects it now. But once he leaves, the country becomes a total mess, mixed up like bibimbap. I protected it countless times. Really, I'm not bragging. Even when President PGH was in prison, my heart really hurt. When you see a woman who became president sitting in prison, it hurts your heart, doesn't it? It's pitiful because it's not like she stuffed herself with money and lived rich. Why lock up someone like that? Let her out. If you let her out, she's someone who would live quietly at home and die. So I kept putting my heart into wishing they'd let her out when Elle was there. That's why she came out. So a person knows the work in front of them, but they don't know what comes after. So you have to stay quiet. A person like that must never come out and wander around. Do you know? They must not wander around. If they wander around, their score drops and their character is diminished. So what I'm saying today is telling you why I created the Yonghwa world. People who are pitiful, powerless, looked down on by others, and who died unfairly. The Yonghwa world is a place made for people who lived unfairly and lived miserably without money. Do you know? Everyone. Look at the Yonghwa world. So many of you are sitting here like this now, right? Even if you jump, you're just a flea. You will never become a great rich person no matter how much you jump right now. And it's not like money will fall from the sky, or you can pick it up from the street, right? You can't. In this state, being comfortable, being healthy, not in pain, not sick, and having peace in the household, and living well in this state and then leaving, that's the best way of living. I'm telling you, what I'm saying is right, isn't it? So you live comfortably and well here, and when the time comes, what do? You have to leave anyway. When the time comes, you shake it all off and go to the Yonghwa world. If you go there, there's no hatred, and there's no guy you can't stand looking at, because everyone is the same. And there's no younger sibling or older sibling coming up beside you asking to borrow money. Who would ask to borrow money? So you live the same in the same world. And everyone's age changes into their 20s too, into a young age. Why is that? How would people who are old and wrinkled live if they go there? It changes completely into a young, lively age, and even as time passes, you don't age. Why? Because there is no physical body. And then on a good day, why? The place called the Yonghwa world was made for reincarnation. If you were to live there all day long, why would you go sit there as a ghost? Isn't that right? You have to listen carefully to what I mean. If you're just going to live there all day as a ghost in the Yonghwa world, why go there? Isn't that right? I'm telling you, you go there in order to reincarnate. When you harvest beans and cut them, you cut them because the beans' lifespan is over too, right? Gathering the beans and keeping them well like that is the Yonghwa world. Even beans have a Yonghwa world, and when spring comes, people go and plant them. When you plant them, beans come out into the world again. It's the same principle as reincarnation. Beans aren't ghosts, so a human has to plant them. But humans have a soul, so going to the Yonghwa world, staying there, and then voluntarily coming into the world, that is what we call reincarnation. It's different, but the coming is the same. Even beans, when they come into the world, they bloom if you don't plant them. They just disappear as they are. People are the same. Monks say that if they hold a rite for the dead, people reincarnate, but that's talk like a ghost chewing rice chaff. What reincarnation happens? Do you live in the world without even knowing the principle? After you die you go to paradise. You go to heaven. No. Where is heaven? Where did they set it up? You're going to ask me where the Yonghwa world is, right? Where is the Yonghwa world? The Yonghwa world is this Saha world. It is the Yonghwa world. Where would a ghost go, anyway? The Yonghwa world is the Saha world. The Saha world is the Yonghwa world. But because I take off this impermanent physical body and view the world with the awakened light of luminous radiance, the world looks beautiful. That's what I'm saying. When you wear sunglasses, how does everything look? With sunglasses it looks dark. If you wear yellow tinted ones, it looks yellow. Isn't that right? Sunglasses are dark, right? You put on sunglasses to block the sunlight, don't you? Then if you put on sunglasses and everything is dim, the world looks dim. If you put on yellow ones, it looks yellow. If you put on white ones, it looks white. Am I right or wrong? The Yonghwa world is something my seeing eyes perceive within the Saha world. The Yonghwa world isn't something that has been set up somewhere else. Because monks don't know. They say you ride the Prajna dragon boat to go there. They even make a boat and ride around in it. And they say they built a Dharma hall on the boat too. Then what kind of thing is that? Their heads don't work like that honestly. What even is Prajna? If you interpret Prajna in Chinese characters, it means wisdom. Got it? Because you operate and move along with wisdom. That's why it's called a dragon boat. You ride it with the dragon character and the boat character, but if a boat just stays still, it's like a rock. Doesn't a boat have to move? So because it moves and operates, they call it the Prajna dragon boat. Do you understand? Where is a dragon, anyway? A dragon isn't up in the mountains, it's in the water. That's why it's a dragon. So they use the dragon character and call it the Prajna dragon boat. But without knowing the meaning, they say, when you go to paradise, you ride the Prajna dragon boat, and they make a boat and ride around in it. They make Buddha statues, place them there, and bow to them. Over there somewhere around Zhenjiang, Sachun. If you go there, they say they perform temple rites on a boat. What do you call that when you see it? A swindler, right? Monks are that ignorant. A Yangban doesn't become a monk. Everyone, if you go to a temple and meet a monk, you don't even have to use honorific speech. You can say, hey, you came? You can talk like that. Why? In the old days, Yangban didn't do monkhood, nothing like that. If a Yangban became a monk, it would be a big problem. Then who does it? Commoners do it. Monks are what commoners become. It's what lowly commoners do. They had many children, but even as they raised them, they couldn't afford to raise them. So they sent one off to a temple to reduce one mouth to feed. That's what they call a monk. Know that and go around. I saw monks lowering their noses straight down to the ground and acting extremely reverent. What kind of nonsense is that? Why bow with your head shoved down until it touches the ground? Honestly, you can just do it simply. If monks greet you, you just follow and do this too. Tell them to do it first. Got it? If they first put their palms together and bow, then I can lightly return the greeting. Don't lower your head and lie prostrate. Why do that when you're a Yangban? Am I right? So that's why the Yonghwa world is the Yonghwa world. The place that has been made like that is the Yonghwa world. Even though Americans are called an advanced country, they believe in Christianity so fiercely. Really, it's all wasted effort. If they listen well to the Dharma talk I give and awaken, their heads will open. Oh, God. I believed in God and made countless friends, but when you die, not a single one comes. What meaning is there in meeting after death? You can't even meet once you die. That's the end. Husband and wife live together and then die, right? But there isn't even one couple where two ghosts go around together as ghosts. They all go separately, each one goes their own way. There isn't a single case. I'm telling you, when you look during a rite for the dead, there isn't a single couple coming and holding hands. Everyone comes separately. If they were together, they would come together, side by side, wouldn't they? They're not together. Why would they go around together even after death? Right? Now you understand about the Yonghwa world, right? So people who are that devoted, people who do many good deeds in society and are truly devoted, people who wonder, should I live or should I die? For example, a parent is sick and lying down. and the child sacrifices for the parent and nurses them for their whole life. Or even between spouses, a wife nurses her husband for her whole life for his sake. On TV you see it a lot, someone where the woman keeps nursing her husband like that for his sake. And when the woman is sick, the man keeps doing it like that day and night. People who nurse, handle their urine and feces, feed them meals, those people go to the Yonghwa world when they die. Even if no one tells them to go, they go because they built virtue themselves. So there is virtue you receive, and there is great virtue, like that. Do you understand? So the tap water coming down from the Chuncheon Dam, what kind of virtue is that? Tap water comes down from the Suncheon Dam, the Soyang River Dam, and you're drinking it. What kind of virtue is that? Because you're benefiting from something someone else blocked and stored. This is virtue you receive. Did you go and block it? If you didn't give money when they blocked the dam, how is that your virtue? If I gave money when they blocked the dam, or donated, or went there and worked, then that becomes great virtue. I'm telling you, these are precious words. So if I didn't build virtue, where would I go to receive it? There's nowhere to receive it from. That's why I'm saying pastors and monks have paradise and heaven while they're alive. So no matter if it's your sibling, your older brother, your uncle, even if the Buddha is your older brother and your uncle, what's the use? They should come and build virtue at the very least. Come here and wipe a table, or wipe the floor. They should come and clean the altar, or draw and set out water, or come and do some work. Only then does that become siblings. Since they share the Buddha's blood, you'd think, when they die, they'll go to a good place, wouldn't you? They like it if you always give, and if you don't give, they don't come. If the Buddha's sibling is the Buddha, does that kind of behavior make sense in principle? Whether it's siblings, parents, relatives, I don't discriminate like that. My nature is originally like that. If even a sibling doesn't sit right with me and is rotten, it ends that day. Why? The more you drag it out, the more you get harmed. My legs hurt because I have to go up to the 3rd floor. So I want to live in an apartment where I can use an elevator, so give me 100 million won. Did they deposit money with me? Why are they asking me for money? I do have 100 million won, but I won't give it. They should at least have some face, right? If someone is in pain and about to die but can't get treatment because they don't have money, then sure, I'd give it. But they're perfectly fine, just that their legs hurt because they have to go up to the 3rd floor. So if they live in an apartment, there's an elevator, so it's easy and comfortable to get around. But they can't go because they don't have money, so they say, just give me 100 million won. They sit there saying that. Are they crazy? No. Going up to the 3rd floor is even better, it's exercise too. Isn't that right? There are people who don't even have that. If you live with that kind of mind, it means you'll try to use tricks somehow to squeeze money out. Using tricks, that's why it's Yabao style. Simply put, Yabao. So when you watch TV on some channel, you know how they show stories about pitiful people. Families from Sakhalin and Russia come over too, suffer, and they're even lying down like that. I strongly feel like I want to help them. And there are people who can't see, right? There are people who are fine but then live unable to see and become blind like that. When I see them, I feel an overwhelming desire to help. And if I treat their eyes, they really can be able to see. If those people happen to watch this broadcast, then if they come to me on Sunday to Yonghwa to receive the precepts, I'll do it for them once. That's what I'm saying. If they watch the broadcast, I'm telling you, the other day I helped many people who couldn't see open their eyes. So people who can't see should watch this broadcast and come to Yonghwa on Sunday. So for people who have no money and are poor, I'm going to do it for free. If they have no money, how can I tell them to pay? I'm going to do it for free. At the temple, we don't do that kind of thing where we take a lot of money, taking lots of money. So those who watch the broadcast, those who can't see and have become blind like this and can't see the world, come to Yonghwa. I'll do it for you once. There have been people who said they were treating others and then groped women's breasts and touched down below like that, right? So the people who are now sitting in prison eating prison food, those are all fraudsters. I do it with the light of luminous radiance with light. then I don't do that kind of thing for money, I do it for free. I'll do it for free. So for people who can't see those who watched our YouTube, bring them here once. Because I'll do it for them once. Before, a blind woman who couldn't see came from Busan. She said everything was pitch dark. She couldn't see the world, and she was in darkness. But when I did it for her once, didn't she say she could see faintly? Then it can be cured. Isn't that right? I'm telling you, I revive the nerves with the light of luminous radiance. Even things that are dead because there are no nerves. I'm not some hawk catching a pheasant. The person who heals illness and makes someone open their eyes is the one doing well. Then what else is doing well? I'm not someone who did things like that for money, I'm just going to do it for free. So if you watched YouTube and you can't see, come here, that's what I'm saying. I'll do it for you once. How is it? Isn't it a good deed? So if only I were young, I'd really raise a flag and make a big move. But I'm old and tired, and I don't even want to get up in the morning. Still, at least on Sundays, I come with great resolve. So since I come, on Sundays, bring those blind people who can't see, bring them once. They're people whose eyes suddenly can't see while living. Right. For those people, about 80-90% is possible. They can see, I can do it. It can be done. But unless their eyes were completely ruined from birth and essentially gone, for people who lose sight while living, there are many people who become blind, countless. For those people, I can make them open their eyes. I'm saying I can come once, and I'll try, and if they end up seeing well, isn't it like the world appears anew, like they're seeing the world? That's why I'm saying this, got it? Let's live doing good deeds while we're alive. That's how it should be. People say sincere devotion moves heaven, and if you do things earnestly, good things are bound to come, right? Now you're hungry, so you should eat. Since we performed the Chindo J today and all that, it's become 340. But you're hungry, right? You're hungry. You have to speak correctly. 4 o'clock? What do you mean 4 o'clock? It's 340. Right? That's a bit of an exaggeration. That clock is like that because it's gotten old too, past 60. It already passed 60. Right. It's not mine, it belongs to this place. It belongs to the head monk. The head monk is past 60, and this is past 62. I shouldn't say things like this kind of thing. If the president just uses his head well, our country can become the #1 nation in the world, the #1 nation. Do you understand #1 nation? The #1 nation. And I have a lot to say. And the #1 nation. And they say our country's shipbuilding industry is the strongest in the world. But we shouldn't do shipbuilding only in Ulsan. We should do it at Gunsan Port too. We should divide it between Gunsan Port and Ulsan. If we do that, we'll probably soar in the world. I'm telling you, it's true. You can't do anything by cramming it all into one place. Do you understand? A thief comes in to steal, and because you gather the money and put it all in one place, the thief can scoop it all up and take it. But if you split it up in different places, they can't take it all. If you hide it too tightly, they steal it even better. If you hide it too tightly, you know? Now eat your meals deliciously. The winter solstice is coming back, and originally you should offer red beans and such. But if you go up to the rooftop now, there are more than 10 sacks of red beans. So instead of red beans, you all need to do ikmegi. Right. Red beans are ikmegi, you have to do ikmegi. Right. So because I need to do ikmegi separately in a special way, think carefully. You can't skip ikmegi, this isn't a lie. Just because you say good night doesn't mean illness is decided and fixed. You don't know when something will happen. Do you understand or not? So think about it carefully. I'm thinking about various things at some temples. On the winter solstice they carry red beans in big tubs, and when the believers are all seated, they grab handfuls from behind and throw them. And they say it makes their heads hurt a lot. They still do it now. You know, right? They're doing it even now. Why hit people's heads with red beans? That's not how it's supposed to be. Have your meals, and now I'll stop the Dharma talk. When I looked at what an American astronomer is predicting, it seemed like this person learned what I say and said it. They learned it and spoke all about me. Cunningly, but it's what I say. It's all what I say. and they're all saying what I say. They say this astronomer knows something well and makes predictions. But they're saying what I said. They say it's coming to our country. It's coming to our country, but it keeps getting pushed back. They said it would come in June, then said August, then September, then October. It keeps being extended. Then they said December, and now they say it will come next year too, like that. They listen to what I say and keep changing it like this. They use exactly what I say. And churches and monks also use a lot of what I say. If I stay still and listen, I know right away. I can tell when I hear it. Do you understand? Because people are ordinary beings. Their heads are blocked, and because they're foolish, they only think about me and don't think about others. It means, I'm the president and king of this country, so I should speak. Why set up someone else to speak? That's what it means. But if you do that, the country doesn't develop. Even if I want to advise them with a good agenda, with good things, they don't do it. Do you understand? If they said, this time we want to do a big thing for a good country, if there is good content, we want to receive your counsel, please tell us. Then I would handle it smoothly, in one straight flow. Instead, they use what I say while watching it, trying it while watching it. They watch what I say this week, then watch what comes out next week, and then they speak. How ridiculous is it that someone who said it would come in June now pushes it to next year? Got it? I have even more to say, mountains of it. But I should stop here today and end it. Hey, how is your body? Yeah? A person must use their mind well. Don't say, why do I have this kind of thing? Just empty your mind. Even people who came here are clean here today. But when you go home, you meet all kinds of people. On the way you meet even gangsters, you meet shady people, you meet all sorts of things. Then you get attached by it, and you don't really know it even if you're attached. But if your mood isn't clear, those are all people who are attached. So a person must always empty their mind. If you empty it and come to the temple, if you come here, the spirit can't use its power. So a person who is possessed can't enter the Dharma hall. So if they enter here, then the possessed state will also disappear, right? But you are not an originally possessed person right now. If you were completely possessed, you couldn't enter here. You couldn't enter, and before, a young lady came here and she was completely like that, like an octopus. She was twisting and writhing like an octopus or a squid. And then she just ran out. She can't stay here, not even for 1 second. You're not completely in that state. They come and go, these things come and go. There are many people like that. So if you come by car, it stays down in the basement. The spirit drops off and stays there. And then when the Dharma gathering ends and you leave, it follows again. There are countless people like that. So when you have time, come to the temple often. When you're busy, you can't come. But when you have time, come often. If you come, it's not only that the spirit falls away, what I do goes well too, and the household becomes good too. You also earn money well. So you should get married too and meet a pretty bride, and there are mountains of things to do. When will you do them all? If your job is good, there are also many people here who have pretty daughters. If they like you, how would you know? They might say, oh, I want you as my son-in-law, so meet my daughter. They exist right now, they're just keeping their mouths shut. Got it? And right now your condition is good. Right? I'm just saying it exactly as it is. So what? You feel good, right? Feeling good means there's nothing because it's clean. How is your mother? Your mother is heavily chased by your father. That father, the father in that house is not an ordinary person. I'm telling you, that father in that house is not an ordinary person. Isn't that right? Your father and mother have a relationship like sworn enemies. That father is not an ordinary person. So you can't just do whatever you want. Even my father was nasty, but because I got so shocked and terrified here, he's sitting in a good place in Yonghwa world. Why? Because he repented. If you don't repent for what you did wrong to your son, you should be in hell. He repented here and said, I was wrong. Since he repented, now he has gone up and is seated firmly in Yonghwa world, sitting there with a helmet on. So because they're all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas with the Yonghwa world status, when you enter only the main hall of Yonghwasa, You feel comfortable and good, that's what I'm saying. Do you understand? And the people who were guided onward here, all of them are in a good place in this Yonghwa world. Last time too, they came to perform ancestral rites, and these people came and worked hard doing it. They came to perform rites, and even if they weren't their own ancestors, if they're the Buddha's ancestors, they're still Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So when you say Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you call beings like Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva Buddha Bodhisattvas. So you receive blessings. So I told them all, may your ancestors rise to the middle grade, I said. So I sent them up to the middle grade. If there's a measure for people coming, there should be a measure for people going too, shouldn't there? Isn't that right? I don't make people work for free. Other people's ancestors, no matter if it's a temple, even if they're the Buddha's ancestors, if they don't want to come, they don't come. How could you force them to come? When their hearts rise up and they come, and they fry pancakes, and with full sincerity, they boil soup and set up the entire ritual table, that isn't something trivial. So I felt I should repay them. So when I said, all of you, go up to the middle grade, immediately, it's like they were people who had just been waiting up, they went all at once. So even the way they dress is different, their clothing is different like this. People going to the middle grade have different clothes, and they all wear a belt like this. A yellow belt, they wrap a belt around, about this wide. Like how Kashitagarbha Bodhisattva used to wear a belt, they're wearing it in a golden color. So that's a good thing. Then when ordinary people see those wearing belts, they all have to bow their heads like this. It's the natural order among them. So a person has to change. So it's not that you're bad, it's that you weren't born into a good environment around you like that. That's what I'm saying. Do you understand? That's why those things keep attaching to you. What's that kid's name here? You know that man, that fellow, who is it? Bayan Gyongti, by now he's probably over 50. He came when he was 42, or in his mid-40s, and when he comes on Sundays, after eating, he goes to that corner and sits alone. So when I asked why he sits there, it's because he's possessed. So where are those spirits? Here, 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 they go around all over like that. How many are there? Not how many in a simple count if you count them like animals. It's about 60 or 70. He counts them by heads, like animals. That's how it is. So when he goes to work, getting cursed at every day is basically his job, because he's possessed. He works at Samsung Infra, but even so, even when they tell him to leave the company, he keeps holding on to the end. Then he came to the temple, and I removed everything for him, and now he's living well. He was living well, but he went off following a crazy guy. He went to some other propagation center. What I'm saying is, the person had no loyalty. Even if you die, shouldn't you die at Yonghwa? I saved him, and yet he followed someone else and went. He went, and after staying there, since it was just another possessed guy talking nonsense, he got sucked in and went there, and then he stayed there. But when that propagation center didn't work out, they shut the whole place down and got rid of it. So now he's alone, and when you look at it carefully, back when he attended Yonghwa before, he was indebted to the Buddha, and I removed all his spirits. So he called the monk. He said the call came last year. He asked if he could attend here again. Why would I tell him to come? He's a thoroughly bad person. Do you understand? They say sincere devotion moves heaven. He came diligently. I removed everything for him and made him completely clean. And then he went somewhere else, to another propagation center. Would someone like that go to Yonghwa world? Even among people who attended this Yonghwa temple, there were many who held such corrupt intentions. With their words they only say to me, Buddha, Buddha. But inside, they have the mind of an ordinary being. The mind of an ordinary being means a person whose mind is crooked is called an ordinary being. Do you understand? There are many people come here to do the Chindo, but for temple going they go to places where those lazy monks are, and they go around like that. Would that work out for that person? Those crazy guys from Ulsan, that crazy bachelor, 22 years old, those crazy guys, you all know it well. He was crazy. He even said hey to his own mother, and hey to his father too. That day I removed the spirits from him. After I removed them, he went back down and they said he started following some strange bearded shaman-like guy. That's how bad people are human beings. So there aren't many people who can go to Yonghwa world. You see it on TV, right? People who were truly filial and treated their parents well are a small minority. They appear on TV because there aren't many. If there were many, they wouldn't even show up on TV. So even if someone says they're going to Yonghwa world, it's not guaranteed. That's what I'm saying. If a person's mind is crooked and they have the mind of an ordinary being, how could they go? I don't live holding a mind like that. For anyone, I treat them all well. That's what I do. Do you understand? If I tell stories from the past, it's unbelievable. That's why I don't say it. Everyone betrayed me and left. So even people at the Jogi Order Temple in Suwon, when a crazy person comes, they send them to our Yonghwasa. We can't do it. Go to Yonghwasa. Go to Maitreya Buddha, and they even write down the phone number and directions, and the person brings it and comes looking. So look, they say sincere devotion moves heaven. Right. Even in Suwon, these people all know. In Suwon, there are people who have attended here for a long time. A woman's neck was turned like this, twisted around because a spirit twisted her neck. So it was like this. Since she was crazy like that, her husband drove her out, telling her to leave. If she didn't leave, he put her in a psych hospital. He'd put her in, then after about 6 months take her out again. And if she didn't listen again, he'd put her back in again. There was a woman like that in Suwon. She was crazy. But who would pay when the husband keeps driving her out? Would the husband give money to perform a chindoje? He wouldn't. So she always hovered around in front of the temple and came every day. Come every day, because if you come to the temple you'll get better. She came every day. Was it 6 months? Or a year that she came? She came, maybe it was 6 months, and then the spirit fell off. Her neck returned, and she became normal. That woman, when she left the house and tried to go back in, the husband would lock the front gate, so she couldn't enter from the inside. I'm telling you, she left, and she didn't even perform a chindoje or anything like that. Because she came every day. This depends on how a person conducts themselves. I'm telling you, I felt sorry for her, so I told her to come every day, because I felt sorry. While living, did anyone intentionally turn her neck? But somehow she became possessed. Her neck turned, and she went around crazy. And the husband drove her out. They say he spent a lot of money trying to fix it. Do you understand? A person has to control, to some extent, the spirit inside themselves. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, come to the temple often. If you come, it can't stay attached. Even if it happens to be attached, it can't survive and has to go. Because you keep receiving the light of luminous radiance, the spirit can't endure it. Do you understand? Now you understand well, right? So when you have time, even if your mother can't come often, bring her at least once or twice a month. If you die, it's the end. You have to do well while you're alive. Now let's stop and eat. When I think of the past days, sometimes I get a surge of rage. Because everyone just uses only me and then leaves. When thoughts like that keep suddenly coming to me, you get thoughts like, really? Let's end it now because you say you're hungry. I'm going to finish the train. If you can't go, you can go tomorrow. The law of all things in the universe, the Gong Thought. The teachings of Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, the founder of the Gong Thought. An enlightened Buddha emits light from his body and saves living beings with Buddha's enlightened light. The light of the sun that creates all things is Buddha's enlightened light. And only the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha can make humans reincarnate. The Buddha's enlightened light of the living Buddha. That is precisely the Gong Thought. Receiving Shugi means embracing Buddha's enlightened light, that is, the Gong Thought, within my body. After death, there is no samsara, only everything becomes extinct. If you receive Shugi with the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha, you will have eyes that can see the Yonghwa world even after death. Chendo and Shugi are only possible through the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha. Don't receive Chendo after death, receive Shugi while you are alive. Believe and follow only what you can see, hear, and confirm. The dead cannot arise interdependently, only the living can arise interdependently. Just as gold cannot be made artificially, a Buddha comes as a Buddha from the beginning, and a living being cannot become a Buddha through prayer or Zen meditation. However, those who have received Shugi can receive Buddha's enlightened light and become living Buddhas. All these Gong Thought were created by Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. Like the sky and the earth, the sea and the mountains, the source of life and creation, the limitless and eternal truth, the Gong Thought. See, hear, and meet Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha's Gong Thought directly every Sunday at Yonghwa Temple in Surazan Mountain, Anyang.